Today I'm doing the mid-year book tag. So I'm going to be going through a bunch of different questions, answering my favorite books of the year, my least favorite reads, books that surprised me, books that made me cry, books I'm looking forward to for the rest of the year. So we're going to get into all of that. But before we get into it, let's see how many books I've actually read so far this year. Alright, I have my reading journal, and in it I see I have read 23 books so far this year. We are at the end of July right now, so a little bit past the halfway point. My reading goal for the year is 50 books. I had initially set it to 100 books, and within the first month in January I changed it all the way down to 50 because I knew I was just not on pace to be hitting that goal. So 50, fairly reasonable. I am a little bit behind that goal. Goodreads says I'm 5 books behind right now, so we'll see. I think I can catch up. The first few months of the year I was reading a lot less. Life was busy, but I've been picking back up again to more of my average 5 or 6 books a month instead of 3 books a month. I'd love to be reading even more, like 8 books a month, but generally I think 6 is where I end up landing each month. With that, let's get into the first question. What is the best book I've read so far this year? And that one has to go to Daggermouth by H.M. Wolf. This is a dystopian romance, true enemies to lovers. I read this one, I think in June for a book club, and absolutely loved it. Immediately knew it was my favorite book that I had read so far this year. And I've read a lot of good ones. I feel like I've had a great reading year so far, but Daggermouth really stood out to me. It is the first book in a new duology, so the second one should be coming out next year, which is very exciting. This book felt so layered. We got a third person perspective, so I feel like we got to know a lot of the characters really well, get attached to them, care for more than just our main characters. I was invested in multiple romances. There were plot twists that I did not see coming in this book. I feel like it had a great theme of rebellion throughout the book that reminded me of the Hunger Games, specifically Catching Fire and onwards, just all the rebellion that you get from a dystopian book like that. Basically, the girl is sent to assassinate this guy who his dad is in charge of their dystopian society. She is sent to go kill the heir, who's the son, but she fails her assassination attempt, and then they are entered into an arranged marriage. Highly recommend, if you have not read Daggermouth yet, that you pick it up. Next up, what is the worst book that I've read so far this year? And that has to go to one of two options. Either Collide by Paul Cabra, which is the first book in a hockey romance series, or We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor, which is the first book in a science fiction series, which is typically one of my favorite genres, but I just did not like either of these books. I think they both landed around a 2-star rating for me, maybe 2.5 stars. With Collide, our main female character, I just found so unlikable, so rude. I feel like she did not treat our main male character well, and I just did not like their romance at all. I also felt like for being the first book in a series, it needed to do a better job connecting us with all the side characters because there were so many characters, which makes sense because it's setting you up for this to be a series of interconnected standalones and a bunch of other romances, but I could not distinguish all the characters, could not keep track of them. So I didn't like that aspect of it either. This is my reading buddy. He came to keep me company. With Bob, I just did not connect with the sense of humor that the book had. There were so many one-liner jokes that I don't know if I just didn't get the context for, because it was very like computer science nerdy. I like science fiction, but I don't know if I just didn't get the jokes or just couldn't relate. My husband, who's a software developer, loves the series, so just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that it's not for you, but it definitely was not for me. Next up, what is the best sequel that I've read so far this year? And for this one, I could not choose just one book. There have been so many good series that I've started or continued in 2026. The first of which being I'm finally caught up on the ACOTAR series. I read A Court of Silver Flames and absolutely loved it. I had started reading it years ago, never got around to finishing it, knew it was a good book, but that I needed to put it off for a later time. And then finally reading it earlier this year, it was just so good. The story follows Nesta. She's going through all this different training. It's focused a lot on friendships with the priestesses, which I absolutely loved that whole storyline. There's romance and spice, and I just thought the whole book was really well done. I also read and loved Shift by Hugh Howey. This is the second book in the Silo series. I had read Wool last year in a reading vlog. Loved that book. I had watched the Silo TV show too, which they are actually currently releasing episodes for the new season of the show. So I'm gonna have to get Apple TV again to catch up on that. But it is a trilogy. There's still one more book in the series. It's a dystopian sci-fi book where these people live in an underground silo and they don't know whether or not the world outside is survivable. They also don't have any history of the silo. But the second book, Shift, the one that I read, actually I think it was my first book of 2026. It's actually, even though it's a sequel, it's set prior to the events of the first book. So it's kind of like a prequel, but by the end, we're caught up to the same point that the first book had finished off at. But it gives you more background, more of the answers that I was wanting. And I thought it was just a really neat premise to write a sequel but have it kind of be a prequel. You don't see that very often, but it worked really well. I started the Legacy series this year. So I read Reign of Shadows and Endings and then the sequel, Storm of Secrets and Sorrow. There are 4 books in the series, but so far I've only read the first 2 and I loved both of them. It is dark, romantic-y, but I felt like the sequel was just as good as the first book. I really want to continue the series. They are long books, so I just have not gotten around to continuing it yet, but I do have the 3rd and 4th books on my TBR cart, and hopefully we'll get to them this year. The 4th and final book that I want to talk about for this question, I know so many good series. I really could not narrow this down any more than I did, but I read the Kindred's Curse saga, which starts with Spark of the Everflame. It's this really neat romantic-y series. We have great romance and magic and these different realms with different powers, different parts of their world, segregation between those with magic and those who do not have it. So there are interesting politics and rebellion, and there is a love triangle. But I read all 3 books that are out so far from that series. All were so good. I feel like the series just gets better and better as it goes on, in my opinion. The 4th and final book is coming out in September, Burn of the Everflame, so I am so excited for that. And the last book left off on a huge cliffhanger, so I need to know what's gonna happen next. On to what is the worst sequel that I've read so far this year. For the most part, I've read so many good books, so many good series so far this year. But this one has to be The Thorn Queen by Sasha Payton Smith. That is the conclusion of the Rose Bargain duology, which I think I read that one last year. It's a romantasy with fae, but kind of like The Selection, where this prince is choosing a wife from all these different women who enter this competition, but we also have the magic element of it. I wasn't obsessed with the first book. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But the second book I liked even less, unfortunately. There was a huge time jump between the 2 books, and we also lost a lot of our main character's friends perspectives from the story, and I felt like that had added so much to the first book. I honestly kind of enjoyed a lot of their perspectives even more than our main character. So this one I just did not enjoy as much, unfortunately. What book has been my biggest surprise has to go to All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whittaker. I actually just finished this one yesterday, and I was waiting to film my mid-year book tag because I felt like this one was going to be so good, and I had a feeling I'd be talking about it in this video. This is a thriller. I have my Summerween reading vlog coming out either right before this video or after this one, but I read this book in that and absolutely loved it. I don't typically read literary fiction or historical fiction, so that's why this one completely caught me off guard. I feel like I haven't had great luck with enjoying books from those genres in the past, so now I kind of avoid them. But this book I loved so much that it's making me want to step out of my comfort zone again and find books in those genres, because I think this one is a new favorite. This is very much a character-driven novel. It is a thriller, and that was great too, but there's such beautiful lyrical writing. There's so much depth to all of the characters. If you want to know my thoughts in even more depth about this book, I rave about it in that Summerween reading vlog, so you'll have to go watch that. But in short, this book just blew my mind. It's absolutely incredible. I happened to pick it up at the library, and I'm so glad that I did. I didn't really know much about it, but I wanted to try something different, something new, something that I didn't already have on my TBR. I had heard of this book, but again, didn't really know much about it, and then absolutely loved it. Who is a new favorite author of mine? That has to go to Lucy Score. I read Mistakes Were Made. I'm very grateful to have gotten an arc of this book. I absolutely loved her writing. I want to go and read a bunch of her other books now. This is a romance book. It's very long. I have had another book by her on my physical TBR for so long, and I just never got to reading it because I felt intimidated by the longer length. But every page of this book I loved. I feel like there was so much depth to the characters. We have ADHD representation in this book, which is something that I could relate to. I felt like our main character was so funny, so likable. I was laughing out loud while reading this, reading quotes out loud to my husband. But this was the first book that I had read by her. I do have, like I talked about, Things We Never Got Over on the shelf behind me. I've had that for so long, just picked it up in a bookstore one day and never actually read it, but I want to get to that one now and read some of her other books. What's a book that made me cry? There's not one book that I could think of that made me sob or cry my eyes out, but there were a few that did make me tear up at certain points, from something being emotional, impactful, or just sweet in the book. So I'm just gonna rapid fire what those books were. Mistakes Were Made by Lucy Score, that one we just talked about. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Ready or Not by Cara Stone. And then All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whittaker. I think all of these books just had a moment where I teared up a bit. It was well written and heartfelt enough that it made me feel for those characters, so that at some point during the story I did tear up, at least a little bit. What are some books that made me happy? One of these I just talked about, and that is Ready or Not by Cara Stone. This is a friends to lovers romance. There's also an unplanned pregnancy. It's kind of just slow-paced, going throughout this girl's life as she discovers that she's pregnant and goes throughout that whole pregnancy, and then also the love story that happens along the way as her friend steps in to support her. I just thought it was really sweet. I thought it was a nice representation of motherhood and a cute love story. Another book that made me happy in a very similar way was The Slow Burn by Ali Rosen. This book is following a chef, and it's set in Italy when she steps away after her restaurant had caught on fire, and kind of takes this hiatus to slow down while her restaurant's being rebuilt. We get so much of the Italian scenery, the culture. She forms these great friendships. She learns how to slow down and be present in the moment. There's this really sweet friends to lovers romance, and I just thought overall it was a really beautiful story. What is the most beautiful book that I have bought or received this year? That has to go to The River She Became by Emily Varga. This has such a gorgeous cover, beautiful sprayed edges, and the naked hardcover underneath the dust jacket is absolutely gorgeous. It has these beautiful florals, quote on the front. I love the blue color. This is a new romantasy release. It is the first book in a duology. I am very grateful to have been sent this book, the final copy, by the publisher. I have not read it yet. It just came out at the end of June, but this is going to be a must read for me this year. I'm hoping to get to it soon. Very excited about it. We're following a relic hunter as she searches for an ancient fae object to restore magic to her world, and this book is recommended for fans of The Cruel Prince and The Mummy. So I feel like that's a super fun, interesting premise, and also the book is gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. What's a new release that I have not read yet but want to get to this year? There are a few. Honestly, there are a lot more than a few, but I've chosen a few, one of which being Yesteryear. I do have it requested from the library right now, so I'm just waiting for it to be my turn to read it, but I have seen a lot of mixed thoughts, mixed feelings, mixed reviews on this book. I'm really unsure about whether or not I will like it. I think I'll have to read it myself, of course, to see what I think, but I have seen people kind of skeptical about whether the book is criticizing Christians, which I am a Christian, I am a stay-at-home mom, and this book is kind of highlighting trad wives. We're following a woman who, she's an influencer, and she posts these things like baking bread, taking care of her children, and then is actually sent back in time to where she has to do those things to survive, while her husband is now a farmer, I believe. I just think it's interesting. I don't know exactly what the author's trying to say about it, because obviously I haven't read the book myself yet, but anything to an extreme can be bad. However, obviously, as a stay-at-home mom myself, I don't think being more traditional in that way is a bad thing. I personally think it's a good thing if that's what you want to choose. I've just heard that potentially the author is mocking people who choose that. So we'll see. I feel like I was really excited about that one, and now I'm kind of on the fence about whether I want to read it. But I would like to maybe start reading it, make that decision for myself. If it's honestly offensive and just being critical for the sake of being critical, then I can always choose to DNF it. But truly, I have been seeing that book everywhere since before it was even released, and I do want to know what the hype is about, because when I first heard about it, I was really interested by the premise. I think there's the potential for some good dialogue there, but we'll see. It depends what route the author took in writing it, what kind of message she's trying to portray. Other books that have released this year I've been excited about, meaning to get to, and just have not gotten the chance yet, are Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. She writes beautiful summer romance books. I loved Every Summer After by her. It's one of my favorite romance books, and I know a ton of people loved One Golden Summer. I did also read that one. I liked it. It was good. But this one is a friends to lovers romance. I've been looking forward to reading it. I've liked books by her in the past, so I would like to get to that one this year. Ideally soon, because we're heading into August, which is the end of summer, and then I'm going to be in the mood for all the fall books. Next up, Seek the Traitor Sun by Veronica Roth. This is the author of the Divergent series. This is her new science fiction romantasy book. It honestly sounds incredible. The premise sounds so cool. This is another author that I and many others have loved her books, so I'm just really excited to read that new release. And then I also want to get to Shadow Reaper by Lynette Noni. She's the author of the Prison Healer series, which I have not read yet. It is on my TBR cart. I would love to get to that as well. But Shadow Reaper is her new romantasy release. It's the first book in a new duology. I have not gotten to it yet, but again, I am hoping to soon. As for what are my most anticipated releases coming out in the second half of this year, I have quite a long list. I'm not going to go through all of them. There are so many. I think I narrowed it down to about 6. I feel like I could list an endless number of books on my TBR, so I'm trying to go a bit more rapid fire for these that I have not read yet. But first up, we have Burn of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I've already talked about this one in this video. It is the final book in the Kindred's Curse saga, the series that starts with Spark of the Everflame, a series I started and have caught up to and have loved this year. That one comes out September 8th, and I am very excited. On September 22nd, we have The Mirror of Infinite Endings by Stephanie Garber. This is a new novella coming in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I loved that series. It is so sweet, so magical. I love Jax and Evangeline. They are so cute. The world is so fun. It's a young adult romantasy series. I thought it was a completed trilogy, so this is just such a fun surprise that there's going to be another book taking place after where the final book had ended. On October 6th, Veronica Roth is releasing the 6th Faction, which is going to be kind of a twist on the Divergent series. We have the same characters, but it's going to be a different version of the story if different choices were made, I think. So I'm really excited. I don't know exactly what to expect, but for a while I've wanted to reread that series. I think it would be fun to either reread it before or after the 6th Faction comes out, maybe even at the same time. That's another series like Once Upon a Broken Heart where I thought the Divergent series was complete. It's been so long, and to be getting another book in that universe with the same characters is just so exciting. On October 27th, we are getting the next book in the ACOTAR series. I'm so glad that I read Court of Silver Flames earlier this year and I'm caught up on the series, because when this one comes out I'll be ready to jump right into it. And she's already announced the 7th book is coming out early 2027. So those are 2 very exciting releases very close together. We don't have a title for it yet, but hopefully we will soon. Regardless, I'm gonna read it. The last book that I want to talk about, we have Vine of Hearts by Julie Soto. This is the sequel to Rose in Chains, which I loved so much. It's a dark romantasy. Since that first book came out and I read it right away, I have had this one on my radar, been anticipating it, so excited for it. A lot of these other books that I've mentioned have been fun surprises to hear that they were coming later this year. But Vine of Hearts I have been waiting for. And then the last question is, what are some of the other books that I want to get to before the year ends? Mostly I want to continue a lot of the series that I'm in the middle of and keep chipping away at reading books on my physical TBR. We already talked about The River She Became by Emily Varga. I definitely want to get to this year. I want to get to all those new releases that I just talked about. Some of the series that I mentioned earlier, like the Legacy series, I still need to read books 3 and 4 and would love to finish those in 2026. I would love to finish or at least continue the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. I am actually planning on reading Morningstar as my next read after I finish the book that I'm currently in the middle of, which is Red City by Marie Lu. Loving it so far. Not super far in, but I am enjoying it. Anyways, I read the first 2 books in the series last year and then just waited so long to pick up the 3rd one. I thought maybe Red God, the final book in the series, the 7th book, would be announced to be released sometime in 2026, but it has not been. So I imagine at the earliest it's going to be released sometime next year or even 2028. We'll see. Before then, I definitely want to finish this series. So getting close to done at least in 2026 would be great. I talked about the Silo series. The last book in that is Dust. So I would love to read that, finish off the series, and then catch up on the TV show. There are so many other good books. I cannot talk about them all, but I would love to read The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, Direbound, Enchantra, Shield of Sparrows, to name a few. I'm in the mood for a lot of romantasy as we head into fall, especially after reading thrillers to get in the summer-ween mood. But that is where we're at so far. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe and I will see you in the next one.